Okay. One thing. Alright. Time to sit down. Okay, I want to do an experiment. Okay. We're going to do an experiment. Now, what is this small experiment, should I say? Alright. We're gonna... I know it might take a little bit to set up. Take this, blah 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 blah. Where's my storage? Okay, give me a few minutes to set this up. Alright, we got 2 generators here. Now we need to get extenders. Looks weird. Where are the... Oh, wait. Oh, wait, you see how this cord has... that? Alright. Hopefully my hypothesis is correct. So we're gonna do experiments on the atmosphere condenser. Now, if you don't know, this is the most power-consuming tool. 4 times 6, or 4 times 3 actually, which is 12, which is 48 power. So this is generating 48 power, right? Oh, there it is. Watch this. Ready? Boom. Now, I want you to make an observation. You see how thick the arrows are right now? Now watch what happens when I do this. Boop. They go slower. Now look what happens if I do it again. It goes slower until you see it's all red. Now... I'm gonna do... Man, that train keeps circling around. I made that little train for an experiment. Just for handy dandy of this little experiment, I'm gonna go back to the world, I promise. We're gonna make these all automatic, right? So these will start feeding. We can see the bar has a deficit. So if we calculate this, this is gonna consume 20, this is gonna consume 60 power units, right? Oh no, wait, hold on, wait, what was I saying? Hold on, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm an idiot. This is a simulated grid, right? So that means my hypothesis, look at this. Geez, the moment I take these things off, boom, killed. So that means all I gotta do, really, is take this itty little baby, just little baby platform, with a little baby oxygenator, like so. Go over here, hook it up, and without further ado, boom, the entire network is oxygenized from one baby little oxygenator. It's amazing because the thing is that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an idiot. Okay, hear me out. Hi, so I was thinking, I thought that extenders, like, only had a certain amount of power. I think they do. Here's the thing. One thing that the rail tracks can do, what extenders cannot do, is that they can literally, like, they can go both ways. You don't have to force it a certain way. And for 5 extenders, it costs, let's see, like, how many extenders did it take? Let's see. Let's start from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to round that up to 10. That took 10. That is 2 copper. How many rails? 1, 2, 3. Ish. 3 rails. Which means this costs 2 copper. This cost a resin and aluminum. Aluminum and resin are both extremely common resources, and one of them can like they're all over the planet. Every planet has aluminum and resin, and resin can be mass produced from an extractor. In fact, I remember my last season, season 4. You probably remember that resin machine that I had, which means that one thing I was going to do is I was going to take a bunch of platforms and line them up and make a power line, but this has killed it. This has a superior way of transport. We don't even need, like, VTOLs are kind of like, now they went from being like a thing that we have to have, but now these are fast. I think a little bit, like, no, not as fast as a VTOL, but this runs off electricity. And the fact I can just do this, I can get my rail, and it's right here. So we have, and you can it replaces tethers, it replaces extenders, all with and you can transport on it. There's almost no cons to this. Like, there are almost no cons. I don't even know if I can think of a con to this system. It's extremely well done, and aluminum is the most expensive thing, but aluminum's everywhere. And if you set up a mass extent, which means that now, because of this update, the vision of interplanetary power grids, oxygen grids, is extremely cheap now. Well, years ago, in the game, or literally, when I joined, you would have to, like, take an oxygen or extenders and extend them across the freaking globe, or platforms. But now, this is like chaining platforms up, but you can ride on them. This, I was thinking, not only do they have a transport, but it carries power and oxygen. Not wrong. Is there a tether? Oh yeah. And you can tether off them. What isn't good about these things? They're extremely overpowered. System era, this is the second best update, almost the best update you have ever done. Thank you for adding these. I have been wanting rails for such a long time. To now finally be able to get them is extremely awesome. I want to find a laterite vein. Right now, I'm thinking about mass mining laterite. I need to build my factory, which is... after I build my factory, I'm probably going to start streaming other games. Can I say extremely how happy I am? Gone are the days where we have to take an annoying-ass rover down and up the mines to carry resources. We have a faster, easier to build, and cheaper system. I think the train update is truly the apex of this game. You would think over time the updates would make this game worse, but no, like it's better. I actually right now I'm building, like, remember the highways? I'm building railroads. They're just that good. Because one, it's a power grid. Astroneer, I'm playing Astroneer. It's a very good game, and just earlier this month, they came out with one of the best updates. And if you're wondering, should I play it? You should definitely play it. The game is only 10 gigabytes, and it only costs about 20 or 30 USD or dollars from, United States currency. It's cheap. It's a cheap game, small game. You can play it alone. You can play it with multiplayer. Literally, it's one of the only games where you can literally walk around the planet. It's such a fun game. Yeah, because right now is a really good time to play Astroneer. It has never been such a better game. And I cannot wait for the smart folk out there that play this game to start making some truly wonderful machines with the rail. Because now people are going to start making hella automated things. If probably people are going to start getting so smart, they're going to start making rails go get resources for them from extractors and bring them back. And when that starts happening, then people can manufacture carbon, like nanocarbon, pretty fast. And now it's good because you could literally just build a rail between your camp and a gateway chamber. You could teleport, you could just put the resources there, and the train will just take it back. Oh, there's a lot of laterite over here. Laterite. Now, I think laterite is about to become one of the most exploited resources in the game now. Because it's used to make rails in such good quantities, it's going to start becoming mega targeted. I'm going to start targeting it in a few days here. I love this game now. I didn't hate it. Oops. And hey, uh-oh, did I just run out of power? Go there. Transportation, oxygen grid, power grid, and wait, like if I get lost, I just gotta go beep, and the train goes to whatever thing. I did an experiment today. It'll actually, like, you know those like little things? There's like these things on trains that like they shift to like the rails. It goes there, or goes straight. Well, it'll, like, the junctions, it'll automatically adjust the junctions to get to where you are. Which is even better. I didn't even know if it would do that, and I tested it, and yep, it does. And I found out how to automate them. You have to push this, and you push start, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to lose my train. I'm gonna get one little nugget. Here's why. Somewhere around here is a... Oh, there it is. It's a lot of bytes. And I can't wait to get this. I'm not really the expert at using these. I can't wait to become a real expert. Oh, I have to go up. The game, the developers have not really added a whole lot to the game, but I think the rail update is well worth the lack of changes that we've been getting. I mean, I know we have rails, but I spice the game up is to add buildable structures, because if we have like a way to build structures like really cleanly, I think that will really make the game like to its apex. Like imagine building blocks as in Minecraft. Like I want a way to build like square structures, pentagonal, hexagonal, triangular structures. I want a way to do that. I think they should have like the triangle structure system like what they do in Ark. I'm getting soil for the factory because that's my to-do list. Or it's on my to-do list. So that means that I could literally, like, because of rails, if I had, like, a rail that went around the world, the prime meridian or the equator, I could have a power plant in the North Pole and my factory in the South Pole, and it will work. Yeah, that's my most requested feature now is a building update or something. Because once players gain the ability to build without using just awful soil. I mean, soil building is okay. I just wish I could build with like a better looking structure. Like once they do that, the game's hit true greatness. In my opinion, I definitely think there's a few things that they could add. And I think in terms of game updates, the rail update for Astroneer might be the best update of a video game I think I've ever seen. Oh, and I think you can actually put a crane on top of these. So you can have one buddy of yours driving, and you can have the other buddy, you know, operating a drill crane. Meaning that we have a true minecart system, like as in Minecraft minecart system. And I think definitely if you have a mine, all you gotta do is make a tiny baby tunnel, right? And you could snake these rails through it. And once you do that, you can actually use the rails to have a train go down and mine for you. And because the rails are easy to configure, you know, because they're easy to configure and all that stuff, you can easily move it. So say let's say I want to go over there. I can literally just take 1 minute of my time, move the rails, and there we go. It's right there. They're where you need them to be and where you don't. And they're not. Oh, whatever. I don't know what I was gonna say. Alright, I'm an idiot. Another thing I really want, can we please add... I want them to add like a extra large storage silo for nuggets. But I think it should be pretty much expensive to do. Like, by like, I don't know, like 3 nanocarbon, an exo chip, and a glass or something. Or 2 nanocarbon or something, I don't know. Like, they need to make like something like that. But instead of like being able to be attached to something, it needs to be like its own separate structure. And it could hold like 1,000 nuggets. That would be amazing. And could we please get like a large generator? I think the large generator should be able to burn hydrogen. It should be circular, and because you know the hydrogen would turn like a jet of a jet engine almost, and then that rotation could be hooked up to a motor, which could make electricity. And I think it should be able to generate like 15 power units, and it should last for about a minute. And consume hydrogen. Also, okay, I bet they're probably going to add a large canister, because we had like medium-sized like solar panels, and then recently last year we got large and extra large like turbines and large solar panels, which is amazing. So they're probably thinking about that. They just need to find ways to make it not overpowered but good. You know what I mean? I think when I fill these 2 up, these things should be able to help finish my facility. Yep. Do I have the junction? If I don't, do it. Oh, I can get it. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. 2 aluminum. See what I did there? There's no text to speech. You can't really make it like say 999. No! Wait, what am I fearing? I could literally just call it back down. See? I want it right there. Laterite under here. Can't wait to fill this up and get back to work on my factory. I know just what to do with 3 of this aluminum. Damn it, come on. Yeah, and we need to get our power source better. I don't. EF1 and Beeson, Illinois. Huh. Beeson. Apparently that town is just a little blip. There's the baby on the radar. Just tiny little town. Yes, I think the wind power's kicking in, or either that or it's day. Ah, shucks. I was supposed to, use 2 aluminum for a junction. Awesome. Need to get an auto extractor up in here. 400 times 10? Dude, is that like 4,000? 4,000, a full mega container of resin and aluminum can make 4,000 of those rail things. This is actually, these type of trains that travel on one track is called a monorail. Mono meaning one, and rail, just, you know, it's rail. One rail. Monorail. It's daytime, which means if you ever have to power consuming, you better do it today. Or in the day. Or else, you gotta wait till wind. Now with bundles you get, with junction bundles you always get 5. And I'm not angry at that. I think it deserves to be 5. No, back. Extenders, you better watch out. You're on the verge of freaking death. And when it's out, it'll start like kind of like slowly moving. Which means that you guys right there, I got here in 3 rails, 4 rails, but I had to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-ish extenders, almost 3 copper worth of power. But then but you know, I have oxygen right here. Oh, no you don't. Did I get... Oh wait, I think I got 3. Okay, good. That's 3. Now I just need to do 2 more of these wings. That was weird. Look at this beauty. I think I'm gonna have a painful time making the roof of this place. Like, the wings, because the walls, all of them, are probably all, like, not even lined up correctly. They're not even, like, level. Probably. I'm definitely gonna have to do some mining over here. I will say the mountain does do good at helping me get some elevation while I build this. Mine some of it, that way I can get a little bit extra soil. Space it out. I wish I could VTOL over this place to see how awesome it looks. One more wing left. I'm gonna need to get more power. I'll probably have a rail circling the entire plant. And then there are gonna be junctions, that way you can like unload stuff. You know, I make a rail yard, or probably even both. I mean, both doesn't sound like a bad idea. And I have a friend in special ed that would love this update. I'm a special ed student. There's this kid in my class who really likes trains. He's one of my best buddies. He would love this update. I'm gonna run out of electricity. Yeah, a big portion of this mountain is gonna need to be moved if I want to do my rail plan. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it took me a long time to make this structure and some coordination, but damn, it came out, or it's about to come out pretty great, in my opinion. That wall's kind of hideous, I'm not gonna lie. I need to fix it. Because if I'm gonna roof and it's gonna go like that, you can see how much space is in here. It needs to be filled. Not gonna be perfect, but hey, it's gonna be damn well awesome. And I'm probably gonna take a crane or something and just, you know, mine. Yeah, this train is so rugged, it needs to be smoothened. Patch that seam up. You tap it. You tap the, Oh, wait, I need to get more electricity. Oh my god. That's embarrassing. Yeah, the entire area around the plant will definitely... Oh, is it because I'm here? Oh yeah, that's interesting, look. It's cutting off the power because I'm consuming so much and that it's producing so little. That's how bad my power system is right now. We need to upgrade it. Definitely need to upgrade it. I might have a bunch of power condensers. If you know anything about... Not power condensers. Atmospheric condensers. And if you don't know anything about atmospheric condensers, they are like AC units in real life. They eat up a load of power. They will suck any energy unit. Like, yeah. Anyway, it will suck any power battery dry. Yeah, it will kill any power source. We're gonna have a bunch of them if I'm not wrong here, but power... maybe I might make a separate plant for that. It's not gonna be one of those factories that is like completely automated. It's just gonna be a factory that like, you know, just kind of like sorts. I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be one of those factories that like you feed in and you receive, but just neatly organized. Cannot wait to flatten this area out. I might as well do a little bit of it. Roughly flattens. Yeah, that was awful. Doesn't look good from up here. That's worthy of a screenshot right there. You can really well see the Pentagon. You can definitely see it. Besides like... Hopefully I don't die from this. Nope, I'll just get slapped around a bit. Yeah, which means, you know what is really good about this update is that you can now start deploying farms wherever you want, and if they're connected to the rail. You know, and it leads back to your base, and guess what? You got a lot of power. Which means I might start spreading out solar plants and wind turbine farms. Maybe later I might do some Sanaka. I'm making myself a drink. cave exploring gone wrong? This is like the deepest cave ever, apparently. I want to see this. I love caves.
57 feet deep. Vorovkina Cave is the deepest cave on Earth. The cave is...
Alright, let me rerun the video.
257 feet deep. Vorovkina Cave is the deepest cave on
257?
Vorovkina Cave at 7,257 feet deep. Vorovkina Cave is the deepest cave on Earth.
Yeah, that's a mile down.
So deep that it takes over 4 days and thousands of feet of rope to descend to its immense depth. Certainly, what would the deepest cave be without a couple of horrifying incidents? These are those stories. On the border of Russia and Georgia is a mountain range known as the Caucasus Mountains. This mountain range is notable for a few reasons. First, it's home to Europe's highest peak, Mount Elbrus, at 18,500 feet. Then, on the western side of the region of Abkhazia is a sub-range of the Caucasus Mountains, known as the Gagra Range. There are some decent-sized mountains in this area as well. The highest among them is just over 11,000 feet. But this area is notable for another reason. The Gagra Range is primarily a limestone mountain range carved out by rivers over its geological history. The prehistoric rivers created a bunch of deep canyons and the largest caves on Earth that are currently known. In fact, the Gagra Mountains are home to 4 of the deepest caves anywhere on Earth. The deepest of these is Vorovkina Cave at over 7,000 feet deep. For context, that's the same as stacking 23 Statue of Liberties on top of one another. The entrance to Vorovkina Cave is also located at an altitude of 7,500 feet, meaning that you have to climb up a literal mountain to get to it. Once you're up there, you're still surrounded by the rocky cliffs of the mountain ranges, and then in the middle of these cliffs is a fairly unremarkable looking hole in the ground. It's obvious that it's the entrance to a cave, but you never expected to descend for over a mile into the earth. When the entrance was first discovered in 1968 by a group of cavers, they only descended down to a depth of 377 feet before returning to the surface. Then in 1983, the cave was discovered for a second time by a separate team of speleologists from the Parevo Speleal Club from Moscow. Over the next 3 years, a series of expeditions pushed the depth to around 1,400 feet. But then for reasons that are unclear, there were no more expeditions until the year 2000. Work resumed again that year, but it would take all the way until 2015 to discover a new shaft that would unlock the true depth of Vorovkina Cave. By 2017, they had extended the maximum depth of the cave from 1,400 feet all the way to 7,200 feet, and mapped
oh my god
of tunnels and passages.
Jesus.
Then finally, in March of 2018, the official deepest point of the cave was discovered at the bottom of a subterranean lake where the cave meets the water table, giving Vorovkina Cave a total depth of 7,257 feet, or 2,212 meters. 6 months later, in September, the Parevo team returned once again to continue the cave, and this time they were joined by photographers Robbie Stone and Jeff Wade. It was this same team of world-class cavers from the Parevo Club that made all of the 7 descents of Vorovkina and of the other deep caves in the Gagra mountain range. Led by team leader Pavel Demidov, this expedition would be returning to the bottom of Vorovkina Cave to collect samples of some of the potentially undiscovered species and explore some of the promising horizontal passages at the bottom of the cave, all while having Robbie and Jeff document the entire thing. Now, in an ordinary cave of moderate depth, where you can descend and ascend in a single day, you'd still be bringing a decent amount of equipment because you need food and a bunch of climbing gear for every single person on the team. In caves as large as Vorovkina Cave, the descent is more similar to an expedition that you'd expect to see when climbing a tall mountain. If you've ever watched anything related to Mount Everest, you may have heard of the multi-camp system. These camps are established higher and higher up the mountain to store food and gear, and for the climbers to sleep and stay in between climbing. For multi-day expeditions on a mountain or in a deep enough cave, the amount of gear becomes way too much to transport at a single time. People have to climb up and down in advance to transport load after load of the necessary equipment to ensure a safe attempt. And Vorovkina Cave is no different. In fact, because of how deep it is, it has a total of 6 camps at various depths on the way to the bottom. From the entrance, climbers have to put on special clothing, harnesses, and helmets fixed with headlamps. They then descend down the first shaft into the darkness and move through a series of tight tunnels and passages to reach the first camp at 2,000 feet. This camp is a permanently installed camp where gear and equipment are stored year-round for emergencies. Then, over the course of the next 4 days, Robbie, Jeff, and the Parevo Speleo Club made their way to Camp 6, all the way down at 6,900 feet. On their way, the temperature was just a few degrees above freezing. They crawled through mud and water, impossibly tight squeezes, and descended down 100-foot shafts over nothing but air. The thousands of feet of ropes that they used to make the descent were their only means of transportation in and out. Then, finally, they set foot onto the flat, sandy Camp 6 set up in a large horizontal tunnel. This would be their home for the remainder of the expedition. Over the next 3 days, the team set out from their camp to complete all of the tasks they had intended. One of these was to bring Robbie and Jeff to the lake that sits at the bottom. When they got there, they were stunned to see this beautiful turquoise water surrounded by jet black limestone. The lake is 50 feet long, 25 feet wide, and is actually 28 feet deep. If not for the lights that they brought, it would sit there in complete darkness, entirely without color. On day 7, everything was still going according to plan, and that day, 2 of the members of the team had to leave early to catch a flight home. When they got up to Camp 3, there was a ton of water pouring into the cave.
Uh-oh.
A massive storm up on the surface had caused a flood pulse to send thousands of liters of water rushing in. Inside these caves, you can't really communicate wirelessly because of the thick layers of rock. So instead, cavers have to run a physical line the entire length of the cave to communicate. The 2 team members immediately tapped into the cable to warn the others about the flood pulse headed their way. Down at Camp 6, they weren't all that worried when they initially got the call. Flood pulses are a common thing that cavers have to worry about. A single milliliter of rain is 1 liter per square meter, meaning that a single square kilometer receives 1,000 liters of water if just a single milliliter of rain falls. In heavy rain, that number is significantly higher. All of this water then bursts down into caves in equally huge volumes and can last for hours, depending on the volume of rain.
That doesn't sound fun.
Again, they weren't all that worried when they first got the call. The Parevo group is world class, and their plan was to monitor the water level and then plan accordingly. Camp 6 had also been set up off of the main vertical shaft in what looked to be an area away from the flow of water. It was also at 6,900 feet, whereas the total depth...
I'd hate to be at the bottom if it was flooding.
For the water to reach them...
How long does it take to even get down there, man?
...feet of passages below them before it would reach them. About half an hour after they received the call, they heard the first sound of water approaching. It started off as a faint rumble and slowly grew like a train approaching. By the time it was just about to reach camp, it was so roaring loud that it was almost deafening. The entire cave shook like a constant earthquake was going on. Robbie had just started breakfast when the noise really started, and he and the others rushed out of their tents to see the approaching storm. As they turned their headlights towards the vertical shaft, a fire hose of water came pouring down. Robbie stood there with his mouth open and almost dropped the food he was holding. Not nearly as experienced as the Parevo team, Robbie was really concerned by the volume and speed of the water rushing in. But again, the spot they were in was completely dry, so he tried to stay calm like his Russian comrades. About 2 hours into the flooding, with no signs of it slowing, one of the team members noticed a gurgling sound coming from a small hole near the tent. He looked into the hole and couldn't see any water, but he figured he should tell the team leader anyway. Pavel agreed that this was a bit concerning, so they decided to go and check out a nearby siphon to see how much the water table had risen. They returned about 5 minutes later and looked into the hole once again. This time, not only could they see water, but it was rising so fast it was sloshing up around against the wall and almost out of the hole.
Oh.
The team member looked back at Robbie, and Robbie saw that his face had gone completely white. Immediately, he knew that this meant that they needed to leave, and leave right away. With the sound of water still almost deafening, all hell broke loose in the camp. No one expected to be leaving that day, but now everyone was running around packing up essential gear. Robbie and Jeff pulled on their latex suits over their fleece base layer. After that, they slipped on their abrasion-resistant nylon shells and harnesses. Robbie then made the tough decision to leave all of his camera equipment and personal items.
Oh, that's
literally tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. He knew he couldn't risk being slowed down, or it could cost him his life or the life of one of his teammates. He pulled all of the memory cards out of the cameras, placed them in a Ziploc bag, and
At least he got the memory cards, right?
At the very least, he could save all of the pictures he had taken. With that, he called out to the others that he and Jeff would start their ascent, and then they started off
Dude, that would suck.
out of the quickly flooding Camp 6. This would be the last interaction they would have with the Russians at Camp 6. The remaining members of the Prevo team would wait for the team leader, Pavel, before starting their ascent. As Robbie and Jeff made their way to the vertical ropes, they reached a narrow traverse, almost like a bridge that went along one wall. Prior to the flooding, the chamber beside the bridge was 60 feet deep and 25 feet wide of nothing but air. Now it was almost completely flooded, almost coming up over the side of the bridge. At the end of this narrow traverse were the vertical ropes and the source of the water pouring into the cave. Robbie stepped into the waterfall pouring down from the shaft and clipped his ascenders to the rope. Then he put his head down, took a deep breath, and started making his way up the rope as the water pummeled him from above.
Dude, that's gotta be scary.
He felt like it was crushing and suffocating him. It was literally as if his head was being squashed into his shoulders. Thankfully, he was able to tuck his chin, which allowed the water to run off of his helmet and create a small air pocket for him to breathe. Focusing on just the white rope directly in front of his face, he moved his ascenders up rhythmically as fast as he could. Finally, he reached an area with a small outcropping that he could step on and out of the waterfall to look up. He saw that the rope was coming out of a shoulder-sized hole in the rocks, but this was also the source of the water. Coming out of this little hole was a fire hose of water that seemed to take up the entire space. He thought to himself that there was no way he was going to be able to make it through that intense downpour. At the time, he couldn't just stop. He was the lead climber. Everyone else was coming up behind him, and there was no telling what the water was like down below. He had to at least try to make it through. When he got to the hole, the force of the water was so strong that he was only able to push his ascenders a couple inches at a time. He finally made it through the squeeze and then realized that Jeff would have to do the same thing. He had no idea whether or not Jeff would be able to make it, so he just kept climbing as high as he could to get out of the way. In his panic, he hadn't realized that this new section of the cave was mostly dry. The water flowed down a different route to the squeeze, so he was relatively safe where he was. But because he was so full of adrenaline, he was mindlessly climbing for his life as fast and as high as he could. He only finally realized what he was doing when Jeff yelled out to him to slow down. Snapping out of it, he stopped and waited for Jeff to catch up before they continued. When Jeff reached him, his face was white, his eyes were wide, but he exclaimed that they were at least alive. The two of them silently wondered if the same could be said for the Prevo team down below. Robbie and Jeff eventually made it up to Camp 5 at 6,200 feet where they waited, hoping they would see the Russians any minute. As the cave continued to shake around them, they occasionally looked down over the edge into the abyss. Miraculously, down below they saw a single headlamp slowly making its way up the shaft. When he was finally close,
Kind of interesting. Now that we have a train that goes up here, it's not gonna be it for this. It's not gonna be permanent.
they realized it was Andre. After he climbed up into camp, they asked him if he had seen the others, and he just shook his head silently. They all sat there, thinking about the worst-case scenario. Down below, by the time Pavel had returned from the siphon, the bridge that Robbie and Jeff had walked across was completely submerged. The rest of the team members had to actually swim to reach the vertical ropes. The last to swim out was Pavel, and as he was making his way out, the chamber had become a swirling vortex. All of the water draining deeper into the cave had turned into a giant whirlpool. When he went through it, it spun him around and he had to swim hard to make it to the line. By the time they were ascending, all of the deeper passages were completely submerged in water. Then, 15 minutes after Andre emerged, 5 more lights could be seen making their way up the shaft. One by one, all of the remaining members of the Bravo team made their way up to Camp 5. Robbie watched them ascend out of the flooded passage and couldn't believe how strong and capable they were. One team member was even carrying a stove and 4 sleeping bags attached to his harness. He thought to himself how glad he was that it was him and Jeff that had gone first. If they had been the ones to climb up last, it's likely that they wouldn't have survived. And then when they climbed up into camp, they were quickly in the tent, having coffee and laughing about the entire ordeal. Robbie, on the the other hand, was still
what a bunch of Russians.
For hours, he refused to take off his gear and kept looking down into the chasm to see if the water was still rising. 200 feet above them was a horizontal passage that they needed to pass to move higher into the cave. Normally, it's already half filled with water and you have to crawl through it. With all of the flooding, it was completely filled with water. As long as the flooding continued, they were trapped and just had to hope that the water didn't continue to rise higher. Pavel reassured Robbie that they would wait until morning to let the water clear.
Okay, if I were these cavers, or if I were to lead the expedition, I'd say, you know what, I'm gonna drop like $100,000 on a pumping system or something. They should have a pumping system.
The week of rain had completely saturated the ground, so by the time the storm happened, the water poured relentlessly into Varavakina Cave. They later learned from a cab driver that the raindrops from the storm had been the size of nickels. This was actually a good learning experience for the team. They had previously been operating under the assumption that the cave only flooded in the wintertime. Following the expedition, plans were put in place to improve the surface monitoring to watch for rain. Another camp was installed in the lower chambers to provide another escape point in the event of flooding, and despite this expedition being cut short, they had completed essentially everything they had set out to do.
Why is that cave so damn deep, man?
At take 5, you stay in your car because we're faster than you think.
Oil change is done. Done so fast I didn't even have time to finish knitting these sweaters.
Might need more soil, I don't know. We are... I don't know. So we have just under half of our supply that we've gotten.
Water poured relentlessly into Varavakina Cave. They later learned from a cab driver that the raindrops from the storm had been the size of nickels.
God.
This was actually a good learning experience for the team. They had previously been operating under the assumption that the cave only flooded in the wintertime. Following the expedition, plans were put in place to improve the surface monitoring to watch for rain. Another camp was installed in the lower chamber.
Wow, pump.
Another escape point in the event of flooding. And despite this expedition being cut short, they had completed essentially everything they had set out to do. New passages had been explored and mapped, Cave species had been sampled, and although the camera equipment was destroyed, all of the pictures were preserved. But this wouldn't be the last accident to ever occur in Varavkina Cave. 2 years later, in November of 2020, some people exploring the area noticed a rope fixed to the cave's entrance. This is typically a big no-no in the caving world, because then anyone can access the cave and potentially get hurt or lost if they're unprepared. 8 months later, on August 4th, 2021, the same Prevo team returned to continue their work in Varavkina Cave. They descended into the cave as they had 3 years earlier, but then at 1,300 feet, they found a pair of crampons and an ice axe. This didn't make sense. This equipment couldn't have just fallen into the cave from the entrance. There were no straight drops to where the equipment was found. This meant that someone had to have come into the cave and deep into the cave. They continued further in, all the way to the permanent camp at 2,000 feet. Then to the second camp at 3,200 feet, and then all the way at 3,600 feet. Halfway into the deepest cave on Earth, they found the badly decomposed body of a man. He was wearing camouflage overalls, trekking boots, a helmet, he had 2 cell phones, and he was still attached to the rope that he had used to descend into the cave. By the looks of the decomposition, he had been there for months. Although he had no ID on him when he was found, authorities were able to identify the man as 37-year-old Sergei Kozyev using a missing persons database. Then, using the information from the cell phones found on him, they were able to figure out what had happened that led to his death. Sergei lived in the city of Sochi, Russia, just east of the Russian border with Georgia, and about 2 hours from the entrance to Varavkina Cave. He was an avid outdoorsman and frequently went on solo expeditions to explore the wilderness. On November 1st, 2020, he said goodbye to his family, as he always did when he was going on one of these solo expeditions, and then set off for the Gagra Mountains. He also didn't tell them where he was going, despite the fact that he was heading to a location that fewer people had set foot in than the International Space Station. Based on the documents and screenshots found on his phone, it seems that Sergei had spent almost a year planning this trip. He had printed out maps and materials from the expeditions made by the Prevo team, specifically to navigate down into the cave. First, he made the ascent up into the mountains to the cave entrance using his crampons and ice axe. Then he fixed a rope to the opening and descended down into the darkness of Varavkina Cave. Using the information that he had gathered from the Prevo team, he hauled all of his equipment in 3 transport bags through the tunnels and narrow passages. Then, using a lattice descender, he traveled down the massive vertical shafts all alone. He successfully made it to the first camp and then left some of the equipment later discovered by the Prevo team, and then proceeded almost directly to the second camp. It was determined by the excrement found on site that he lived at the second camp for about a week before descending further into the cave. From the second camp, things got a bit more challenging. Beyond that camp, there are some larger and more technically challenging vertical shafts. In addition, the cave becomes significantly wetter from that point onward. As any caver knows, proper equipment is crucial. The standard fleece underlayer with a waterproof outer layer is crucial to surviving the cold and wet subterranean environment. It's unclear exactly what happened in Sergei's last moment, but it seems as though he realized that he wouldn't be able to descend any further in the water with the equipment he had. At which point, he would have tried to make his way back up the cave, but because he had already descended into a technically challenging area, he was unable to get back out. Sergei had brought ascenders for his hands, but he didn't have any stirrups for his feet, meaning that he had no footholds for any of the long vertical shafts. He must have tried and tried to make his way out of the cave, but between the exhaustion and the cold, he eventually laid down to sleep one last time and never woke up.
That's creepy.
Upon finding his body, the Prevo team went back up to the surface and alerted authorities. Due to the difficulty of the cave and the depth that Sergei's body was found at, it would take a team of over 100 individuals to eventually retrieve it. It's also particularly risky to be in a confined space like a cave with a decomposing body, because the gases given off from the decomposition process can build up and become toxic at high enough levels. Despite how many people were involved in the rescue, they still ended up having to cut Sergei into pieces to successfully remove him from the cave. After his retrieval, his body was finally returned to his wife and kids in Sochi. For now, Varavkina Cave is the deepest cave on Earth. But the Earth is a big place, and caves are not nearly as readily viewable as their mountain counterparts. Varavkina Cave was only crowned the deepest in 2018. It remains to be seen whether it will hold its place as the deepest on Earth. Hello everyone, my name is Sean and welcome to Scary Interesting. If you made it this far, I just want to thank you for watching. This is part 10 of the ongoing series.
Exploring cave gone wrong. Cascade cave disaster.
Come along with me on a journey. Season 5 of The Office, like you've never seen.
I love seas.
Six
I love
men
that.
were exploring the 300-foot deep Cascade Cave on Vancouver Island when something went horrifyingly wrong. This is their story. On the west coast of British Columbia, Canada, is the beautiful Vancouver Island. Home to the province's capital, Victoria, Vancouver Island is the largest and most populated island along the west coast of the Americas. Vancouver Island also has a diverse climate with some of the mildest temperatures anywhere in Canada. The temperature in January rarely drops below freezing, and the summer temperatures can reach as high as 33 degrees Celsius or 91 Fahrenheit on a regular basis. The interior of the island also has significant mountains, similar to those that are typical of the rest of the Pacific Northwest, and as a result, there are large differences in the amount of precipitation across the island. The interior of the island can see as much as 262 inches, which is the most in all of North America, whereas the eastern tip in the rain shadowed mountains sees as little as 24 inches. In addition, the majority of this precipitates during the winter months. In fact, the rainfall during the summer season amounts to less than 1/5 of the rain during the winter season. And if you've ever been to the Pacific Northwest, you're probably all too familiar with the rainy months. At 6 a.m. on December 5th, 2015, Jason Story bent down in the dark over his bed to kiss his wife Caroline goodbye. That day, he would be traveling 80 miles northwest of his home in the city of Duncan on Vancouver Island to explore a cave with 5 friends. He walked out of his house that morning and the rain was coming down steadily, as is the case with most days in the winter months on the Pacific Northwest.
Dead.
Jason was dressed for the wet weather, though, not only for the trip there, but also for the conditions inside the cave. He had on some rubber boots, neoprene socks, 3 shirts, overalls, and a water-resistant jacket. He'd also recently bought a helmet with a mounted headlamp for just this occasion. Up to this point, Jason had only been caving 4 times, and the cave that he would be going to that day was going to be his toughest cave yet. Near the city of Port Alberni is a cave known as Cascade Cave. It's dangerous enough that there's a locked hatch covering the opening, and the key to the hatch is only given to groups that sign waivers indicating that they understand the dangers of exploring the cave system. In addition, the location of the cave is kept somewhat secret within the caving community to ensure that people can't get hurt exploring it or disturb the formations inside of it. The interior of Cascade Cave is about a mile long and descends to 338 feet under the Earth's surface.
Pretty.
It's also filled with impossibly tight and winding tunnels that are just barely passable by an adult person. After leaving
Bastards crawl. Bastards crawl.
Jason met up with his friends Andrew and Adam.
Dude, is that a squeeze? Looks like a nutty putty squeeze.
Together, they drove into Port Alberni, where they picked up the key for the hatch and met up with 2 more friends, Matt and Taylor, who were both computer programmers. Jason was the oldest of the group by about a decade at 43 years old, and the least experienced.
What the hell?
Among them. It was his friend Andrew who introduced him to the sport, and if there was anyone you'd want to be your teacher, it was Andrew. Not only was he an expert caver and former cave guide, he had a wiry frame perfect for caving. His job as a paramedic also made him invaluable if anything went wrong during their descent. From Port Alberni, they drove up a forested, unmarked trail for about half a mile before parking in a small clearing. After parking, they took inventory of all their climbing gear, which included ropes, harnesses, carabiners, and a small ladder that they would use to descend into the opening.
I'm gonna need more soil.
They also brought a small gas stove, food, water, and a first aid kit containing a Mylar space blanket. If you've never seen one of these before, they look almost like a blanket made out of aluminum foil, and they're excellent at preventing heat from escaping. After checking their gear, they set off into the forest to find the entrance to Cascade Cave. The entrance to the cave was just a small steel hatch in the ground that you could easily miss if you weren't specifically looking. Incredible considering what it leads to. They got to the hatch at about 10 a.m. and reached into the small hole beside it with the key to open the lock. Next, they fixed their aluminum ladder to 2 carabiners near the opening and then fixed ropes to their harnesses to belay one another down the ladder. All of them descended into the cave, and the last person in closed the hatch and locked it once again. With it closed, the last little bit of light filtering into the cave was now gone.
Why would they close it?
because if it got lost, there would be no way for them to reopen the hatch and exit the cave.
That is the
From the
stupidest system
surface,
ever.
the cave descends 30 feet straight down into the first chamber. Now relying on their headlamps, they took their first look around the subterranean abyss that would be their home for the next few hours. It was damp and cold, just barely above freezing, but this is what they expected, so they started down the first narrow passageway from the first chamber. On either side were jagged boulders, and the ceiling was dripping with water from all of the moisture. As they continued deeper into the cave, the dripping water eventually turned into a small stream along the cave floor.
Illinois is full of people who care and teach and help across.
First, it was up to their ankles, and then up to their shins as they crouched through the narrow tunnels. At around 45 minutes in, Adam decided that he couldn't go any further.
Well,